When my boyfriend Jasper Sutton's childhood friend sat in the passenger seat again, I didn't make a fuss. Instead, I quietly sat in the back seat, next to his friend Jonathan Clayton. As the car drove along the bumpy road, my knee brushed against Jonathan's muscular thigh. I deliberately left my knee there, and he didn't move. We stopped at a rest stop. Jasper's childhood friend linked arms with him, and they walked to the restroom together. As soon as the door closed, Jonathan grabbed the back of my neck, pulled me towards him, and kissed me. Lost in the passion, I couldn't help but think, no wonder some people enjoy cheating. Kimberly Jensen once again took the passenger seat. I didn't argue or cause a scene. I simply turned around and opened the back door, only to pause in surprise. I didn't expect that Jonathan Clayton, someone as busy as he was, would join this short road trip. After quickly regaining my composure, I nodded at him with reserved politeness. Jonathan, wearing glasses and showing traces of fatigue on his face, lifted his eyelids to glance at me. He gave a slight nod in return before closing his eyes again. While fastening her seatbelt, Kimberly glanced back at me smugly, raising an eyebrow. Kathy, I get carsick, so I'm sitting in the front, okay? Kimmy gets carsick. Be generous about it. Don't make a fuss over something so trivial all the time. I let out a soft laugh. Alright, Jasper seemed a little surprised, but didn't say anything more, because Kimberly had already shoved a half-eaten piece of bread into his mouth. This tastes bad. Help me finish it, okay, Jazzy? Without even frowning, Jasper naturally ate the rest of the bread. Kimberly glanced at me through the rearview mirror, sticking out her tongue playfully. I ignored her and grabbed a bottle of soda, trying to open it. The cap was tight, and I still couldn't get it off after 2 attempts. Up front, Kimberly was pouting as she handed her bottle to Jasper. Jazzy, I really can't open it. You know I have no strength in my hands. Jasper just looked at her dotingly before effortlessly opening the bottle for her. Then, the two of them took turns sipping from it without the slightest intention of avoiding intimacy. I felt a wave of nausea. Just as I was about to set my bottle down, a man's hand suddenly reached over and took it from me. Under the sleeve of a black casual suit, the cuff of a silver-gray shirt could be seen, neatly fitting around a slender wrist. The hand was beautiful. Long, defined fingers with nails trimmed short and clean. His fingers looked like polished silver in the shifting light reflecting through the car window. While I was still stunned, Jonathan had already twisted the cap open and handed the bottle back to me. The car's music started playing at just the right moment. I quickly took the bottle and murmured a soft, "Thank you." Jonathan gave a slight nod and closed his eyes again. He must have just come off a night shift at the hospital. Faint red veins were visible in his tired eyes. I sipped the soda slowly. The car had merged smoothly onto the main road. Kimberly's birthday was coming up, so Jasper organized this short road trip to celebrate it. About 7 to 8 of us were in 3 cars, heading to a hot spring resort 100 miles away. Not long after we started driving, Kimberly practically glued herself to Jasper's side. The music was loud, making it hard to hear what they were saying, but they were clearly enjoying themselves. Lately, Jasper and I have had several unpleasant arguments because of his inappropriate closeness with Kimberly. He promised to be more mindful next time, but whenever he saw Kimberly again, that promise vanished into thin air. Suddenly, everything felt meaningless to me. I lowered my head, chuckled to myself, then turned to look out the window. The mountain roads twisted and turned, with the occasional loose rock scattered along the path. As the car jolted, I couldn't help but lean to the side. My bare knee under my skirt brushed against Jonathan's thigh, pressed tightly against it. I wanted to move away instinctively, but then I noticed a faint reddish mark on Kimberly's neck. Even a fool could recognize it. A kiss mark. There was no need to guess who left it. In that instant, a surge of defiance rose within me, and I simply froze, leaving my knee where it was. Just then, Jonathan opened his eyes and looked at me. I pretended to be perfectly calm, staring straight ahead, refusing to meet his gaze. Yet, my knee, pressed against the outside of his thigh, subtly shifted closer, pressing in even more. Only a thin layer of fabric separated us. I could clearly feel the firmness and heat of his muscles beneath. Waves of warmth surged through me, setting my nerves alight as if electrified. My mouth felt dry, and I couldn't help but swallow hard before reaching for the water bottle again. The cold water rushed down my throat, suppressing the restlessness and anxiety bubbling inside me, jolting me back to clarity. Jonathan still hadn't moved his leg. He just let me stay pressed against him like that. For a moment, my heart felt as if it had stopped entirely. Then it picked up speed, racing uncontrollably. But just then, the car suddenly swerved sharply. Kimberly let out a startled cry from the front seat. "That scared me, Jazzy." She patted her chest dramatically, then softened her voice to praise him. "But your reaction was so quick, Jazzy. If you hadn't turned the wheel in time, that rock would have hit our car." Jasper chuckled. "Impressed? My driving skills are top-notch." Kimberly suddenly leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. "You're amazing, Jazzy. Here's a kiss." "Cut it out," Jasper scolded, pretending to be annoyed. At least he hadn't forgotten his girlfriend was sitting in the back. He shot her a mock glare. "Act your age, will you? Kathy is right here." Kimberly widened her eyes, putting on an innocent, pure expression. "Kathy, Jazzy and I grew up together. I see him as my elder brother. You don't mind, do you?" I pulled a blanket over myself, forcing a cold smile. "Oh, do you kiss your brother like that at home too?" Kimberly immediately put on a pitiful look. "Jazzy, see? I told you Kathy doesn't like me. Maybe I shouldn't go. I don't want to upset her." Jasper frowned right away. "Enough, Catherine. You're 2 years older than Kimmy. Can't you be a little more mature? She's just a kid at heart, spoiled and playful. Why do you have to be so harsh?" In that instant, I didn't even have the strength to argue anymore. "Be more generous, huh? Sure. But in the future, I hope you would be just as generous too." Beneath the cover of the blanket, my leg pressed even tighter against Jonathan's. As the car jolted slightly again, my knee and calf brushed against him once more. Suddenly, his long, warm hand slid over and grabbed my thigh. His palm was hot against my cool skin, and that warmth seeped into me, wave after wave. In that fleeting moment, my senses felt magnified 1,000 times over. I could even feel the faint calluses on his fingers, calluses from years of holding surgical scalpels. I could feel the subtle friction as the pads of his fingers grazed my skin. So, I couldn't help but glance back at him, just a quick look, but it was enough to catch him sitting upright, his shirt collar neatly buttoned. Yet, his Adam's apple bobbed sharply, betraying his tension. From the side, those razor-sharp contours of his face were strikingly handsome. It was the kind that made your heart skip a beat without warning. Jonathan was an outlier in Jasper's social circle. If it weren't for some roundabout family connection between them, a man like him, cold, indifferent, and obsessed with cleanliness, would never mingle with this crowd. After getting together with Jasper, I naturally got to know him too. But every time we met, it was nothing more than a polite nod and greeting. He liked silence, wasn't much of a talker, and his personal life was as blank as a sheet of paper. At gatherings, while others played cards or sports, Jonathan often left early. If he stayed, he'd sit alone on a corner couch, eyes closed, resting quietly, never joining the lively chaos around him. Jasper used to joke about it. My cousin is practically a monk, pure and untouched. He's 27 and probably never even been with a woman. But he's gotten better this past year. Invite him to 10 gatherings, and he shows up to 3 or 4. If it was a few years ago, you can forget about it. You'd never even catch a glimpse of him. I'd actually heard of Jonathan back in college and had even seen him from afar a few times. To me, he always seemed like the kind of man girls fantasize about for their first crushes. Distant, unattainable, a moon hanging high in the sky. We never had much contact, except for a couple of times when I went to the hospital due to discomfort in my bosom. By coincidence, I ended up with an appointment under his name. I'd initially felt a bit embarrassed, but Jonathan was completely professional. That quickly put me at ease. I even secretly scolded myself afterward. After all, Jonathan was a surgeon. What hadn't he seen before? Even though I was young, beautiful, and in good shape, I was nothing more than just another body to him. But still, when his hands touched me during the examination, I couldn't help but squeeze my eyes shut, my face flushing bright red. Later, as I was leaving, I wondered if I'd imagined it, or if the room's heating had been too high. Jonathan's ears also seemed a little red. Jazzy, can we stop at the next service area? I need to use the restroom. Kimberly's voice suddenly pulled me back from my thoughts. I bit my lip gently, trying to shift my leg, but Jonathan's fingers only tightened their grip. I lowered my lashes, not daring to move again. Soon, the car pulled over. Kimberly immediately whined, asking Jasper to accompany her to the restroom. Jasper glanced back at me, looking slightly conflicted, but Jonathan spoke up suddenly, his voice low and steady. She's asleep. Jasper seemed to relax at once. John, I'll just go with Kimmy to the restroom. We'll be back soon. Jonathan responded with a simple hum. The car door opened, then closed. Soon, their voices faded away, leaving behind complete silence. Catherine, Jonathan suddenly pulled the blanket off my legs. You're already sweating. Aren't you hot? I lowered my head even more, not daring to meet his gaze. I grabbed the water bottle, trying to mask my awkwardness by taking a sip, but he snatched it from me. Don't drink so much cold water. Have you already forgotten the medical advice I gave you? I didn't know where the courage came from, but I suddenly looked up and met his eyes. Dr. Clayton's medical skills aren't all that impressive. Oh? His brows furrowed slightly. And why's that? I followed your advice, took the medication, avoided the foods you told me to, but it still hurts. His frown deepened. It still hurts? It hurts right now, actually. I pressed my lips together, tilting my chin defiantly. Should I come in for another checkup, Dr. Clayton? Not far outside the window, Kimberly was clinging to Jasper's arm. The two of them were so close that there wasn't even room for air between them. Jasper kept pinching her cheek, ruffling her hair affectionately. They looked like the perfect, inseparable couple. I felt a simmering frustration, anger trapped in my chest, desperately searching for an outlet. Before I knew it, I grabbed Jonathan's hand. Or maybe, Dr. Clayton can fulfill his duty as a doctor right now and examine me? When his hand was about to touch my chest, he quickly pulled away and immediately gripped the back of my neck firmly. With just a little force, he pulled me right up against him. Catherine. He lowered his gaze to look at me, and I had to tilt my face upward just to meet his eyes. Don't try to seduce me here. Seduce you? I met his gaze head on, refusing to back down. Dr. Clayton, are you saying you have no medical ethics? You'd ignore a patient in discomfort and just sit there watching? Before I could finish, he suddenly took off his glasses and kissed me. That taste was so uniquely his. A faint bitterness mixed with the sterile scent of disinfectant, like it seeped from every inch of his skin, completely enveloping me. My eyes widened. Instinctively, I tried to push him away, but his hands only held me tighter. A small gasp escaped me, but as soon as my lips parted, he took full advantage, deepening the kiss even more. The air in my lungs was slowly drained away, making my head spin. First, my legs gave out, then my entire body went weak, as if my bones had been taken apart, leaving me unable to support myself. His fingers gripped my chin, kissing me deeper and deeper. Even my tongue felt numb. At some point, my hands clutched at his shirt, wrinkling the fabric in my desperate grip. Our ragged breaths tangled together, and tears prickled at the corners of my eyes from the overwhelming intensity. Suddenly, Jonathan stopped. I tilted my head back, dazed, my eyes still hazy as I stared at him, as if silently asking for more. Jonathan smirked, his fingers brushing away the moisture from the corner of my lips. No need to rush, Catherine. I stared at him, dazed, my mind still spinning. He leaned down again, planting a soft, lingering kiss on my slightly swollen lips. His forehead rested against mine, his voice low and husky against my ear. 30 more miles. When we get there, I'll give you what you want.
Jonathan's forehead rested against hers for one lingering moment before he finally stepped back. 30 more miles, he repeated, his voice calm again, as though he hadn't just shattered every boundary between them. Then he put his glasses back on. The familiar, restrained Dr. Clayton returned in an instant, except for the faint redness at the corners of his ears. Catherine stared at him, still struggling to steady her breathing. "What just happened?" she whispered. "You tell me." She laughed softly, though it sounded more like a sigh. "I wanted to make Jasper hurt." "And did kissing me accomplish that?" Her smile disappeared. "No." Outside, Jasper's laughter drifted across the parking lot. Kimberly clung to his arm, smiling brightly as he bent his head to listen to whatever she was saying. From a distance, they looked like a couple. Catherine's chest tightened. Jonathan followed her gaze. You deserve better than becoming someone else's revenge. She turned toward him. And what about you? His expression remained unreadable. I deserve better than being used for it. Those words landed harder than any accusation. The car door opened. Still sleeping? Jasper asked as he climbed back into the driver's seat. Jonathan had already leaned back, eyes closed again. She woke up a minute ago, he answered evenly. Kimberly slid into the passenger seat, beaming. You guys missed us. There was a bakery inside. She held up a small paper bag before naturally offering the first pastry to Jasper. He took a bite without hesitation. Catherine watched in silence. Oddly enough, it didn't hurt the way it had before. Something inside her had gone quiet. Not healed. Just finished. As the miles slipped by, she looked out at the winding mountains and made a decision she hadn't been brave enough to make for months. When they reached the resort, she was ending things with Jasper. Whatever happened after that, whether Jonathan regretted the kiss, whether they never spoke of it again, or whether it became the beginning of something neither of them expected, would be decided honestly. And never again, because she was settling for being someone's second choice. The rest of the drive passed in uneasy silence. Kimberly kept chatting with Jasper, pointing excitedly out the window whenever she spotted a scenic overlook or roadside cafe. Every few minutes she'd tug on his sleeve, demanding his attention, and every few minutes he gave it to her without hesitation. Catherine watched the mountains blur past outside. Surprisingly, she didn't interrupt once. Jasper glanced into the rearview mirror several times. Normally, she would have complained by now. Asked him to keep his distance. Started another argument that would end with him insisting Kimberly was like a little sister. Instead, she simply looked out the window. That unsettled him far more than any fight ever had. Kathy? Are you still mad? She turned, offering a small, almost polite smile. No. The answer should have relieved him. Instead, something about it made his chest tighten. Because it sounded like someone who had stopped caring. By late afternoon, the hot spring resort finally came into view, nestled between rolling green hills. The convoy pulled into the parking lot one after another. As everyone climbed out, Kimberly stretched dramatically before wrapping herself around Jasper's arm again. I'm starving. Let's check in quickly. Jasper instinctively looked toward Catherine. She was already unloading her own suitcase. I'll carry that, he offered. Before he could reach her, another hand took the handle. Jonathan. I've got it. His tone was calm, almost detached. For a second, the two men stood facing each other. Jasper forced a laugh. Didn't know you were this helpful. Jonathan merely adjusted his grip on the suitcase. It's heavy. No one else thought much of it. Only Catherine noticed Jonathan never once looked directly at her. It was as though nothing had happened in the car. She wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or disappointed. After everyone checked into the villa, the group gathered in the lobby to divide the rooms. There are 4 rooms, one of their friends announced while looking at the reservation list. 2 people per room. Easy enough. Another friend started pairing everyone off. Mark and Ethan. Done. Lisa and Nina. No problem. Then everyone's attention shifted toward Jasper and Catherine. Before anyone could speak, Kimberly raised her hand with an embarrassed smile. Actually, she bit her lip. I get scared sleeping alone in unfamiliar places. She looked hopefully at Jasper. Jazzy, could you stay in the same room? Just until I fall asleep. The lobby fell silent. Several friends exchanged awkward glances. Even they thought the request crossed a line. Jasper opened his mouth, hesitation flashing across his face. Kimmy. Before he could answer, Catherine calmly reached for her room key. That's fine. Everyone turned toward her. She smiled faintly. You don't have to explain. Then she placed the key card into Jasper's hand. You stay wherever you want tonight. The smile on her face was gentle. It made Jasper's stomach suddenly sink. Somehow, this felt far worse than if she had slapped him across the face. Jasper stared at the key card in his hand. What do you mean by that? Catherine met his eyes calmly. I mean exactly what I said. She picked up her suitcase. You don't have to worry about me tonight. Kimberly's smile stiffened for just a fraction of a second. She had expected another argument. Not this. Not Catherine stepping aside so easily. One of their friends coughed awkwardly. Maybe we're overthinking this. Kimmy, you can stay with the girls. Kimberly lowered her head. I don't want to trouble anyone. I'll stay with her. Everyone turned. Jonathan had spoken. His tone remained as level as ever. The suite has 2 beds. The room went quiet. Kimberly blinked in surprise. You're willing to? Jonathan nodded once. I'll be working on reports tonight anyway. We won't disturb each other. The arrangement sounded perfectly reasonable. No one could object. Kimberly hesitated before forcing a smile. If you don't mind. I don't. Just like that, the awkward atmosphere dissolved. The room assignments were settled within minutes. Jasper looked toward Catherine again. She had already picked up her luggage and was walking toward the elevators alone. Kathy. She stopped but didn't turn around. What? I'll stay with you. For the first time all day, she looked back. Her expression was unreadable. You don't have to. I said I will. She studied him for a long moment before smiling faintly. No. The single word left Jasper speechless. You've already made your choice a long time ago. She stepped into the elevator. Just before the doors closed, she looked at him one last time. Tonight you're only noticing because I finally stopped competing for your attention. The elevator doors slid shut. Jasper stood frozen. Something inside him twisted painfully. It suddenly occurred to him that throughout the entire trip, Catherine had never once reached for his hand. She hadn't waited for him, hadn't looked for him in a crowd, hadn't even asked where he was. For months, he'd assumed she would always be there. Now, for the first time, he wasn't so sure. Across the lobby, Jonathan quietly watched the closed elevator doors. His gaze lingered for only a second before he adjusted his glasses and walked toward his own room, his expression as composed as ever. Only the slight tightening of his grip on the room key hinted that he was thinking about the woman who had just disappeared upstairs. Just as Catherine reached the elevator, Jasper suddenly strode after her. Kathy, stop. The lobby fell silent. Everyone instinctively looked over. Catherine didn't turn around. Jasper caught her wrist before the elevator doors could close. What are you doing? She looked down at his hand before lifting her eyes to him. I'm going to my room. You're angry. I'm tired. Don't lie to me. A friend chuckled awkwardly. Come on, you too. Don't fight on vacation. Kimberly hurried over. Jazzy, this is all my fault. Don't argue because of me. She reached for Jasper's arm. Almost instinctively, Jasper let her hold it. Catherine's gaze dropped to the hand wrapped around his sleeve. She smiled. A real smile. So this is what you wanted to stop me for? Jasper froze. He looked down as if only now realizing Kimberly was clinging to him. He quickly pulled his arm away. It's not what you think. I've heard that sentence before. No, listen. For 3 years. The smile disappeared from Catherine's face. For 3 years. Every time she crossed a line, you told me I was imagining things. You called me jealous. You called me immature. You told me to be more generous. Her voice remained calm. Calm enough to make everyone uncomfortable. So today I'm doing exactly what you asked. I'm being generous. She stepped closer. So why do you suddenly look unhappy? Jasper opened his mouth. Nothing came out. One of the guys quietly muttered, She's actually right. Another friend nodded. I mean, Kimmy does lean on you a little too much. Kimberly's eyes immediately reddened. I never meant. Tears rolled down her cheeks. If everyone thinks I'm causing trouble, I'll leave. She turned and ran toward the hotel entrance. Kimmy. Without thinking, Jasper chased after her. The lobby became deathly silent. Catherine watched his retreating figure until he disappeared through the revolving doors. Then she laughed. Not loudly. Just once. It sounded more exhausted than amused. Behind her, Jonathan spoke for the first time. He answered your question. She looked at him. What question? You wanted to know who he'd choose. Jonathan adjusted his glasses. You have your answer now. For the first time that day, Catherine felt something inside her finally break. Not her heart. Her hope. Jonathan's words settled over the lobby like a final verdict. You have your answer now. Catherine stood motionless for a few seconds. Then she exhaled. You're right. She reached into her purse, slipped a small velvet box into her palm, and walked toward the front desk. The receptionist looked up with a professional smile. Can I help you, miss? I'd like to change my reservation. The reservation is under Mr. Sutton's name. I know. She gently set the velvet box on the counter. It was supposed to be a surprise. The receptionist blinked. Catherine opened the box. Inside lay a simple platinum ring. One of the girls in the group gasped. Wait, wasn't today? Another friend suddenly remembered. Your anniversary. Silence. No one had remembered. Not even Jasper. Catherine smiled faintly. He forgot. One of Jasper's closest friends rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Damn. I thought this trip was just for Kimmy's birthday. It is, Catherine replied. I just thought, maybe we'd celebrate both. She closed the box with a soft click. I was wrong. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the elevators. Jonathan watched her leave. Then, for the first time all afternoon, he frowned. Outside the hotel, Kimberly had stopped near a decorative fountain. She was crying dramatically into her hands. I knew Catherine hated me. Jasper sighed. She doesn't hate you. Then why does she always target me? I'm exhausted, Kimmy. She looked up. His expression wasn't comforting. It was weary. I spent months trying to keep the peace between you two. Kimberly sniffled. So, you're blaming me? I'm saying everyone needs to calm down. His stomach lurched. Without another word, he turned and sprinted toward the hotel. Jazzy. Kimberly called after him. He didn't stop. He didn't even look back. As he rushed into the lobby, he saw the velvet box still sitting on the reception counter. The receptionist handed it to him. Your girlfriend asked us to return this. Jasper opened it with trembling hands. Inside the lid, engraved in tiny letters, were the words, To forever, if you still choose me. His grip tightened. The elevator indicator chimed. Room floors. The doors had already closed. For the first time since they'd started dating, Jasper felt genuine panic. Not because Catherine was angry, but because he realized she might finally be done waiting for him. Jasper closed the ring box with a snap. Which room? The receptionist glanced at the reservation. I'm sorry, sir. I can't disclose another guest's room number. It's my girlfriend. The receptionist offered an apologetic smile. I'm still not allowed. Jasper turned toward the elevators anyway. He knew she'd answer if he knocked. She always had. Just as he took a step, Jonathan appeared from the corridor. He had changed into a simple dark sweater, the fatigue from the drive softened by a shower, though his expression remained as unreadable as ever. Looking for Catherine? Jasper nodded distractedly. I need to talk to her. Jonathan looked at the ring box in his hand. Then think carefully about what you're going to say. What does that mean? It means an apology isn't useful if it's only offered after you realize you're about to lose someone. The words struck harder than Jasper expected. You think I don't care about her? I think, Jonathan replied evenly, you've grown accustomed to her caring more about you than you care about her. Jasper's jaw tightened. Stay out of our relationship. I've been trying to. Jonathan walked past him without another word. For some reason, that answer irritated Jasper even more. Upstairs, Catherine stood alone on the balcony outside her room. The evening air was cool. Below, the hot spring resort buzzed with laughter. She could see their friends gathering in the courtyard, preparing decorations for Kimberly's birthday dinner. No one had come looking for her. Not yet. Her phone vibrated. Jasper, where are you? She stared at the message. Another vibration. Jasper, can we talk? Then another. Jasper, please. She locked the screen without replying. A few moments later, someone knocked. 3 slow, measured taps. She opened the door. Jonathan stood outside. He wasn't carrying flowers. He wasn't smiling. He simply held out a small paper bag. You skipped lunch. She blinked. You noticed? You get headaches when you don't eat. She looked at the bag. Inside was a warm sandwich and a cup of ginger tea. Not coffee. Not soda. Ginger tea. Exactly what he'd once recommended after learning she often suffered from motion sickness. You remembered. As your doctor should. His answer was so formal that she almost laughed. Almost. Thank you. As she reached for the bag, voices echoed from the hallway. There they are. Several friends rounded the corner. The moment they saw Jonathan standing at Catherine's doorway, everyone stopped. Silence. One of the guys looked between them. Were we interrupting something? Jonathan answered before Catherine could. I was making sure she ate. Another friend raised an eyebrow. Since when do you make house calls? An awkward chuckle rippled through the group. At that exact moment, Jasper stepped out of the elevator. He had been searching every floor. His eyes immediately landed on Jonathan standing outside Catherine's room. Then on the paper bag in Catherine's hands. Then on the way she looked noticeably calmer than she had an hour ago. Something ugly twisted in his chest. He forced a smile. So this is where you've been. Catherine met his eyes. Did you need something? The distance in her voice caught him off guard. He held up the velvet ring box. You forgot this. She looked at it for several seconds before gently pushing it back toward him. I didn't forget. I don't understand. It isn't yours anymore. The hallway fell completely silent. Even their friends exchanged uneasy glances. Catherine's voice remained steady. I bought that ring because I thought today would be the beginning of the rest of our lives. She looked toward the courtyard below, where Kimberly's birthday decorations fluttered in the breeze. But somewhere along the way, your future stopped including me. Jasper instinctively reached for her hand. She stepped back. It was only one step. But it was the first time she had ever refused him. And somehow, that single step backward felt farther than the 100 miles they had driven together. The birthday dinner was canceled. No one had the mood to celebrate anymore. Kimberly cried in her room, insisting she'd ruined everything. Their friends quietly packed away the decorations, each replaying the afternoon in their minds. For the first time, they all realized something uncomfortable. Catherine had never been the difficult one. She had simply been the only person willing to say what everyone else pretended not to notice. The next morning, Catherine was already checking out when Jasper caught up with her in the lobby. His eyes were bloodshot. It looked as though he hadn't slept at all. Kathy. She stopped. I'm sorry. The words came out rough. I kept telling you she was just like my little sister. I know. I was wrong. You were. I never cheated. She nodded. I believe you. Jasper looked up hopefully. But, she continued, emotional neglect hurts just as much. His hope faltered. You made me feel like I had to compete with another woman for my own boyfriend. I shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. He opened the ring box one last time. I was going to propose to you. Catherine smiled sadly. So was I. She gently took the ring from the box. For a brief second, Jasper thought she was going to put it on. Instead, she closed his fingers around it. Keep it. He stared at her. As a reminder. A reminder of what? That love isn't something you lose in a single day. It disappears little by little. One ignored feeling. One broken promise. One you're overreacting. One she's just a friend. Until one day. She looked him in the eye. There's nothing left to save. She picked up her suitcase. This time, Jasper didn't try to stop her. Because for the first time, he understood. Outside the hotel, Jonathan was waiting beside his car. He looked at Catherine as she approached. Going home? She nodded. For now. He opened the passenger door for her. She smiled. I can open my own door. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I know. I just wanted to. She laughed softly. It was the first genuine laugh she'd had in months. As they drove away, neither of them spoke. There were no dramatic confessions. No promises. Just silence that somehow felt comfortable. After nearly an hour, Jonathan finally said, I owe you an apology. She looked over. I crossed a line yesterday. So did I. I won't ask you to make any decisions while you're hurting. She nodded. Thank you. When you're certain your relationship is over. He paused. If you still want to know me, call me. He slipped a simple business card into the cup holder. No more. 3 months later, Catherine signed the last page of the lease for her new apartment. Her phone buzzed. Jonathan, congratulations on the new place. She smiled. Catherine, how did you know? A photo arrived. It showed the potted fern she'd forgotten in the hospital parking lot weeks ago. Jonathan, you left your plant in my office. She burst into laughter. A moment later, another message appeared. Jonathan, dinner? She looked out the window. For the first time in a long time, saying yes wasn't about getting over someone else. It was because she genuinely wanted to. She typed a single word. Yes. Months later, Jasper happened to pass a cafe after work. Through the window, he saw Catherine laughing. Across from her sat Jonathan. The doctor wasn't saying much, as usual. He was simply listening. When Catherine reached for her coffee, Jonathan absent-mindedly switched it with the warm tea he'd ordered for her instead. She rolled her eyes, then drank the tea anyway. It was such a small gesture. But Jasper recognized it instantly. Someone had been paying attention to all the little things he had stopped noticing. He stood there for a long time. Then he smiled to himself. It wasn't a happy smile. It was one of acceptance. Finally, he turned and walked away. Some people don't leave because they stop loving you. They leave because they finally start loving